me. Can you believe this? May 2nd. It's not springy here in Colorado. So please send us some spring. However, it's raining today, and that means a lot to us Coloradans and New Mexico and those areas in Arizona that are so dried up, and we're already having some fire issues. So that's a very welcoming thing that's happening today. But welcome. And then yes, some of you, I have seen you for the entire 29.5 days when we were finishing up the moon, and you're here again. So good to see all of you. And turn on the camera, everyone, if you can, for a sec, so I can see more than just a handful of people here. It's always nice to see faces. I see you waving. Yes, Susanna. Yes. Well, hello, Dawn. Hi, Ursula. I think I'm saying your name right. Ursula. Yeah. Hey, there's another Susanna there too, and Pauline and Linda and Bing and Sue and Elizabeth, Mary Jo. So, all right, well, we will get started, but we wanted to kind of do a little celebration of what we've been through and learned and explored for the last entire month of April. That was incredible. Was it thumbs up, everyone? Was it amazing? Please put it on the chat if you did the moon journey. It's yeah, I cannot believe it. It's almost like I missed you guys. That's why I think we need to come on this Monday call again. The moon family has spent almost every day with each other. So how was it for you? Were you able to reflect on that a little bit over the weekend? And I still am in a little bit of euphoria, to be honest. It was amazing for me, truly. And we got some rest so we can think clearly, and how amazing it was for us too. But it's taught me so much. Her generosity, the moon's generosity and her energy. Oh, that was incredible. And I really felt it in my body, and that embodied visceral experience of the moon was so meaningful. I hope, to me, it's like a gift that keeps on giving, and it's the gift that I can revisit over and over and over every month. So I'm paying attention to it too, over the weekend too, and how the crescent is starting to show, and it's glorious, and it's talking to us. So hopefully you're using all the wonderful tools and information that we shared, but most importantly, do them. Okay. Embody them. Don't just say, oh, I did it, check it off, and then never revisit. Please do visit the information and knowledge and the tools. And, I shared so much that I've never shared before. And it was such a delight to be able to share some of my Japanese background with it too. So yeah, any comments coming in, Chris, about that?
I want to read a few of those. And I also want to say for myself that to do this program, and there are many of you on this call that were in the program with us live almost every single day of the month, and to bring together all of these different fields of learning and practice. It's so easy to get lost in the details of spiritual practices and self-care practices and diet and nutrition and exercise and all these different things that we have to do to maintain and sustain our bodies and our minds and our spirits. And what was so powerful for me is to watch it all come together as we were not only putting it together through Masami's, I would say, her fearless creativity to create the bones and the details of the program, but as we were building it, also watching ourselves go through it and practice it in these very subtle but contained cycles of the moon. That's what was really powerful for me, is that it becomes very manageable when you break it down into these bite-sized pieces. So if you can indulge me for a couple of minutes here, I just want to read some of the comments coming in. Linda says, I can't believe you both have the energy to do a call today after last month's daily work. Well, maybe we're still riding the fumes a little bit today, but I think we're okay. It was really sustaining in a lot of ways too. Sue says it was the most awesome thing I have ever done. And Susanna says, yes, 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 the best month ever. Diana says, outstanding course and experience. And let's see, let me jump to a couple of other ones. Pauline says, I agree with Linda's comment. You must be energized even after doing yeoman's work, teaching us so many meaningful learnings. Mary says, yes, it was extraordinary. I'm still deeply reviewing what we learned and finding new meaning all the time. Thank you both so very much. Another Susanna says, I've been cleaning my front yard over the weekend too, thinking about the gods, telling my partner why it needs to be clean. Okay, and then Annette says,
I did too. I'm sorry, I did too. I hosed down my front because we had so much wind and it was so dusty. I truly took the time and cleared the space for the gods. So
a couple more. Annette says, indescribably delicious. Just can't put it into words adequately. And Richard says, it was incredible. I know that it took an incredible amount of energy and dedication to put it all together and to be there to present it in harmony with the phases of the moon. And Yvette says, I'm working toward actualization. The front door excavation is going to take a minute. Oh, well, okay. So anyway.
You will get there, Yvette.
Yeah. We had a great turnout from all of you and so many others that aren't on the call that were also with us. And so thank you to all of you for participating. We still have a couple more comments. Kari says, I love the Moon course and look forward to using it every month. Truly amazing and packed with so much information. Okay, so thank you for all those great comments and the feedback.
Yeah, and I just want to say, for those of you that are interested in taking it, don't you think it's worth taking that course, everyone? Right? It is worth it. I'm telling you, it's just incredible amount of work that we put into, and we work together. It was, I don't know, it elevated me. That's all I got to say. It truly elevated, changed something in me, physically, vibrationally, frequency wise. It like almost prepped me to welcome this new change that we're all a part of right now. So if you're interested, please go check it out. It's available now. It's available forever. So you can do this with your own pace. You can do it week by week. You can maybe do 3 days and take a break. You can do that. So please do visit the link on our website, masamicovey.com, and it's under courses. The Moon Power is still there. And I'm going to keep it at the low price for a little bit for those of you that didn't quite know about it or didn't get a chance to do it. And now you'd like to join. Not that it's over. I can really guarantee that this is an amazing course. Okay. I can say that. Before I started it, I'm like, yeah, it'll be a great one, but I have no idea how I'm going to put it all together for 29.5 days. But now that I did it, it's worth it. So please do look into it. And yeah, it's like a life gift that we've received from the moon. So, okay. So that's that. It's a wrap for that. And we wanted to mention 2 free interviews that we are doing, or it's been pre-recorded, but it's airing. One is today. It's my interview with Monica, Step Into Your Power. And Chris can put the link, and then you can go to my email and sign up and listen to that too. I talk about third chakra, your power center, and your digestive center in that interview. That'll be very interesting for those of you that are interested in like maybe really learning about what it is that you're here to do on this earth. And she said that she put me on her first day of the interview to kick off her interview series. And she said, because she wanted to put me as a first speaker. So I was very honored. Yes, I was honored that I was picked for that. And Chris and I are going to be 2 separate interviews, but it's on the 4th. That's Wednesday. So you get to listen to Chris this time too. I'm sure many of you are like sick and tired of listening to Masami. Go listen to Chris. But he really goes into 5 stages of burnouts and having the empathic, compassion fatigue, but empathy fatigue is more of a kind of the trend that we're using in the more medical field now, is this fatigue that we experience when we are doing so much for the world. And he will go into a little bit more about head injuries and how that impacted his life too. So I'll pass it to Chris, but that interview is on Wednesday with Courtney's called the
Get Your Mojo Back. Get Your Mojo Back.
Get Your Mojo Back. Yeah. And Courtney is one of those most like spectacularly beautiful human beings. I just love speaking to Courtney, and we've become really good friends. So you can feel the energies between us as well. So please do listen. She does such a great job. Beautiful, beautiful job interviewing people. So hopefully you can listen to it. And then it's not like you have to listen to it that day and it'll disappear. Okay. So you can take a little bit of time in revisiting. Okay. All right. So anything else that you need to add to that, Chris?
Just that I put up all of those links in the chat just now. So you can find all of these on the website at masamicovey.com. You can also go and find them in the newsletter emails that we send out if you're on the list. All of those links are in the most recent email that just came out. And yeah, for the interview that I had, it was a lot of fun actually to talk with Courtney, and we spent a lot of time talking about not only my experience with traumatic brain injury and all of the recovery process that entailed for me to get from that injury, which happened a long time ago now, till today, and the bumps and the peaks and valleys that happened during that process, and just sort of how to come back from that type of injury. So I look forward to having you join us there as well. Thank you, Richard. He said he signed up for both already, so that's great.
Yay, thank you. And I have to tell you, Monica emailed me and said to me, she said, your email list is amazing. And then I said, well, what's going on? And she's like, you have such beautiful people that sign up and they're enthusiastic. They show up. And then she's like, what do you do? Because I mean, there are people that like Courtney or even Monica, they interview that have like 100,000 people in the email list. I don't have that kind of large email list, everyone, but you show up like fully. So I want to thank you for that. Really, thank you for showing up for what we do and what, our messages. And it's like, I get emails like that from interviewers a lot. They say, what do you do? Can we talk sometime? And I'm like, yeah, we can talk, but I don't know what I do that is that different. But I have beautiful people that we co-create together. We elevate together. We do this as a family. I think this is what we do. We create in good company, right? And I think that's what makes a difference. So thank you for being you, because if you didn't show up and you just said, oh, whatever, she's on another interview, then I would just feel like, well, then what's the point of me saying yes to interviews too? So there's this energy exchange that's happening, and I appreciate all of you for showing up.
Thank you to all of you that are piping in on the chat saying that you've signed up. So thank you for all of that. And I just wanted to read a couple of things quickly, because to that question that you just asked, Masami, about what do you do differently? Or how do you bring people like that? Bing says, we mirror you. That's it. And then Yvette says, you are you. That is what is different. So thank you all for that. That's something that's good for Masami to hear, I can tell you.
Yeah. See, that will shut me up, everyone. I just tear up and I have nothing else I can say. The quickest way to get Masami to shut up is to say something like what you just said, because it's just, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. We shared a quote on our closing session on Saturday. I'll have to see if I can pull it up. I'll just try to pull it out of my memory right now. It was from Rachel Naomi Remen. But one of the things that she talked about at the end of this quote is that rather than trying to answer all of our questions, it's more important to ask questions together in a supportive community. That's basically what she was saying, is to spend time just digesting the questions together with people who get it and who are willing to challenge themselves and willing to sit with the discomfort that questions bring up. And that's what her statement was pointing to. And I think that's what we get more and more all the time as we get to know all of you and you get to know us, and we spend time just looking at these questions about how can we really live our best selves in this life.
Yeah. And then I put the quote up there, Chris, if you want to read it out loud to us one more time.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Okay, you got to that way faster than I would have today. Okay. Perhaps real wisdom lies in not seeking answers at all. Any answer we find will not be true for long. An answer is a place where we can fall asleep as life moves past us to its next question. After all these years, I've begun to wonder if the secret of living well is not in having all the answers, but in pursuing unanswerable questions in good company. And that was that part that I was talking about, is pursuing the unanswerable questions in good company. So we count all of you in that good company. So welcome and thank you for joining us.
And Chris, years ago, remember when we went to Japan and we went to Dogen's temple?
Yeah.
And we were walking around the temple and there was a little talk that was going on from, I would say he was one of the head.
Yeah, the term that they would use is he was the abbot. So he was the head priest of this original Zen temple in Japan, which has been there since it's over 1,000 years old. I want to say it's a very old temple. And we were sitting there, and of course, I mean, he was speaking in Japanese to the people that were visiting. So I was relying on Masami to sort of whisper to me what he was saying. But if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and just say it. But he was basically saying to people that what Dogen, he was the founder of Zen in Japan, that what he said all these centuries ago is that it's not about how many people you attract. It's about the right people. And so numbers aren't the thing that matters. It's having the right people who understand how to commit to this process.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's especially important right now with so much quantity out there, right? Free summit this, free interview this, free that, do this, do that. It's like, I talk about this all the time, but it's like going through a Las Vegas buffet zones. And it's like you're sampling, it doesn't have to be Las Vegas all the time, but Las Vegas has like one of the best sampling, not sampling, but the buffets, right? And you get to eat the entire world in one sitting. But at the end of it, do you know how horrible you feel? I mean, you just feel awful. You can't digest, you can't think anymore. You're sweating, you're bloated, gassy, burping, and you just feel like, why did I even do that to myself? So the quantity is out there right now, but it's your job to sift through the quality. And for those of you who did the moon journey, that is the phase 2, everyone, phase 2. Okay. That is the power of discernment. And that's when you want to say, what am I discerning? What is it that I need? And sometimes you use a cheesecloth to sift things out. And sometimes you get a little bit bigger opening so you can sift out things. And that'll depend on the age of your season of your life. So if you're, 70, maybe 72, 74 and older, your sifter may need to be a little bit bigger. So you are not taking in so much and having crystals, big chunks of diamonds that gets left behind instead of all the pebbles and all the sand and all the debris that you don't need. So really choose your instrument well and choose the deciphering power that will feed you and nourish you and not go for everything and anything in the buffet line, please. Okay. So I think that's going to help you in so many ways. And, we're going to shift our conversations around the financial health. But it's the same thing, discernment. Where are you putting your energy towards? And where are you receiving the energy back, and where are you giving the energy to? And that exchange has to be looked at. And so, we'll bring it back to the moon cycle again, but the phase 1, phase 2 is very important time. Right now is an important time for deciphering, okay? Because the organs that I went over are very much connected to what's inside and what's outside organs. That's the phase 1 and phase 2, okay? So pay attention to those things as well. What's coming in, what's going on, what's going out. And so that you're not damming up the river so much so that it becomes stinky and algae starts to grow and nothing moves through. But you're also not dumping so much water that the river is flooding everything and becoming so destructive. And, this is where we require some pauses, stillness, and darkness, right? And time to do nothing. Nothingness is also very important. So, Chris, you have anything else to add before we kind of shift into the financial health side?
Well, I think it's a little bit of a segue to that, because a comment came in just now from Diana. She said, you're talking about discerning what things to choose. And she said, we all know pure gold when we see it. Your vibe is like a pearl and a rare oyster. So that's you, Masami.
I think I'm just going to go away now, everyone.
Wait, I can't have her shut up completely, though, because then we're going to have to cut the hour short, because...
Yeah, I guess we have more to share today. So, okay.
So no more compliments, everyone. Otherwise...
And no more, everyone. We got to get serious about today's topic. Remember? We got to get serious about this. Okay, so financial healing. Okay, so... it's one of those emails that if I send it out to spiritual communities, and if they see the word like financial or money, some people are like, they pull back because it's like money shouldn't enter into the spiritual realm. And I'm here to tell you that is not true. Okay. Money is just another form of flow. Money is just another form of energy. And it's something that your soul actually requires and partner up with. Okay, soul partners up with the flow of money to express soul's contract. Okay, it's very important that you get this. That without that, yeah, you can express. The soul may have a contract that doesn't require any money flow. And there are historically people like that out there, okay? You could think of that, some of people that helped and made great changes in the world without a drop of money, just with their hearts and their care. But most people are not like that. And I'm certainly not like that. My soul contracts requires the financial flow. But I didn't realize that till... most recently, I would say. And in probably the 5 years or so, 5-6 years, I started to realize that, wow, I have to become friends with money because my soul requires that partnership for me to do the work that I'm here to do. So I hope that really sinks in, and then you can take that in. And so when you hear the word like money, just tune into yourself. What does that word money, what does that do to you? Do you kind of pull back? Do you lean in? Are you neutral? Are you kind of like standoffish? What happens when you hear the word money? But if we were to use the word wealth, what does that do to you? Okay. And many of you know the quote, it's like the most important thing in the world is your health, right? And so I think of wealth as health of the flow of your own money. So it's still a healthcare, it is, you still have to feed that money. You still have to move it through. You want to use it, but then wisely, and you want to give, but you also want to receive, because that's what happens in your health. So, Chris, you want to say a little bit about the word wealth?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. So the word wealth is very much connected to the conditions and the resources that are needed to make your life whole. There's actually a link between the word wealth and whole and well, and it's something that we have to look at in a holistic way. And I wanted to share a little funny story. That's one that I like, but I personally wanted to say this has been a real struggle for me. I was brought up in a deeply religious household where both of my parents worked in the church, and I was taught to believe that money or having money or wanting money were things that were not only something to be judged, but I mean, strong language was used. It was sinful. I mean, just to say it just explicitly, that's how I was raised. And so for me, I always learned to hold money at a distance and to say things to myself like, oh, I don't really care about it that much. I'll get by. Whatever I have is good enough. I'll get by. And there's a time and place to have that kind of thinking. There's nothing wrong with that inherently. But there's also a time and place where that kind of thinking isn't enough to meet the needs of your life. And that's something that I ran into, is that it wasn't enough for me just to keep pushing that aside and saying, that this isn't for me. It's like, no, it's actually, this is now about responsibility for my own life. There are things coming toward me that if I don't own up to that and accept it, I'm actually saying no to my own life. And so that's the energy that's behind this. So let me just tell this quick little story. This is something I heard from Alan Watts, who is one of my favorite teachers. And he's long gone now, but he called himself a stand-up philosopher back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. But he told this story about how he's like, isn't it strange how people look at money as something that's a problem? Because it's like, he's like, it's just another form of measurement. Just like we use inches or centimeters to measure distance. He's like, how strange would it be if you showed up at a construction site and they just had a tape across the site, and somebody's there and they say, sorry, no work's happening today. We're out of inches. No more inches. And it's like, how strange would that sound to be out of inches, that you couldn't build anything else because you're out of inches? Because the point is, the wealth is inherent to the world. We are inherent to the world. We are connected to the wealth that is in the world. It is a part of our birthright. It is also something that belongs to us. And so that's where to bring these things together. And this is not about how to make money quick. I mean, that's never going to be how Masami and I approach these things. It's about how to activate yourself from the inside out so that you are there available to both give and receive. That's really what it comes down to, is the giving and receiving. Okay, and I just said a lot more than I planned to, so I'll hand it back to Masami.
Well, I love it. And can you read Pauline's comment here earlier? Can you see that? Carol Dore. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
can you read that?
Yeah, Carol Dore spoke of loving money so that even if you only have $1, honor it, love it, see it flowing all over you now. That's a great reminder. It's not about, burning dollars or euros or whatever currency you use, or swimming in it, or it's not that greed is good kind of mentality that we're talking about. It's about receptivity and opening yourself to what's here for you.
Well, and money has so much charged energy that growing up in Japan, money was something that if it was an exchange between two people, we often put it on this like a kind of a beautiful tray. You put your money on the tray in the store, And then the cashier or maybe the person on the other side, maybe even the banker, will turn it around and pull that tray towards him or her, right? And then it begins to count that money. And then usually when you receive that money, either direction, even though you're paying bills and things like that, they would actually bow towards the money, and you will always receive the money with both hands. Okay. I still do that. I do not like when people just give the money like that, like just with the one hand. Here's your money. Can you imagine, like, can you feel that energy difference? Here's your money, I owe you. Okay. Here's the money for your food. It's like even a credit card. Put the credit card in a restaurant with both of your hands, because that is what's going to create nourishment in both directions. Thank you, credit card. And then when they come back and they give you the credit card thing back, in the Western cultures, they'll probably just give it back to you with one hand. But if the wait staff comes back to collect your credit card or whatever, you can give it to them with the both hands. Honor what this exchange is. Because when you're receiving somebody that you love, or you're receiving something you love, you wouldn't hug with just one arm, would you? And just go, hey, good to see ya. No, if you're going to see your grandkids, your loved ones, you just go, oh, so good to see you, with your both hands. That's the gesture that you want to bring back to the relationship with money. So that, I hope that makes sense. It's like, that's the embodied practice, right? And it's still to this day jarring to me, or like it makes me kind of jump a little bit when somebody gives me money like that. Or like I go to get some services done, let's say a massage or a facial or something like that. Occasionally, when I have time to do that, I do. And when I'm paying that person, let's say I'm paying that person with cash or something, I always present it to them with both hands. And I bow towards the money, and there's an energy that is going to flow from me to the person. But culturally in the United States, we're not taught to receive it like that. So they get very kind of nervous or almost awkward around it. They're like, oh, you could just leave it there on the table right there. I have people say that all the time. I'll just leave it there. And I'm thinking to myself, but then that didn't finish the cycle. That didn't finish you giving me your service. I received your service. I'm content with it. I'm satiated with it. And this is my form of saying thank you, So you can kind of, you can take that into the same thing that's kind of happening in the internet world with all this free stuff, all these interviews, all that stuff that is happening. And there's so much consumption, take, and this is why I think my audience is different, because you guys actually tell the interviewers or me, or you email them and say, hey, we so enjoyed Masami's interview. And I hope you do that for Chris too this time. But I guess this is what I'm asking all of you to do too, is to please let the interviewers know that you enjoyed my interview or other people's interviews or Chris's interview. Please let them know. That completes the cycle for people who are getting interviewed, because we're putting ourselves out there a lot. Just so, none of these interviews we get paid for, right? Everything we do mostly out there is free. That means when you think of all these people that are getting interviewed, we're putting our time, we're putting our research, we're putting our efforts. So what you could do for us that will complete the cycle, and it'll elevate your life. I swear to you, will start elevating you, is when you can say to them, hi, so I'm so-and-so, I got I listened to Masami's, or I listened to so-and-so's, and I really enjoyed. Thank you for putting this together. And that's it. Like that is the exchange that I'm talking about. Because in order to really shift your financial health, the most important word is thank you. Really is. Those two words, thank you. And it's something that I realized that more and more these days, it's like we look at thank yous like it's a finite amount of something. There's like a limited raindrops of thank yous, or it's like a limited resources of thank you. And that's not true. Love and thank yous. And also I would put, I'm sorry. That's another really interesting one that is like finite. I am not saying sorry. No, I'm just going to ignore it. But when I work with clients and when I know people who are financially struggling, they have some common things are going on. Physically, they have stagnations. But number two, they tend to not say thank you and they don't say I'm sorry. If we can be a little more open to that, things will begin to start flowing. I've experienced it myself. And Chris and I have really consciously have done this. And our lives have dramatically changed in the last 5 years because we pay attention to the thank yous and I'm sorry's.
Can I just add to that I've been Masami's guinea pig on this for the last few years because I'm exactly that test case. I grew up mostly, I spent my early years in the United States and then a little bit after that, several years in Canada. But the overall experience was one of what she just described. I grew up being very stingy with gratitude and saying thank you. And the I love yous weren't free flowing in my family exactly. So, all of those things, I can't tell you how many times Masami said to me over the many years we've been together, don't you know that there's no limit to how many times you can say thank you? And the first few times it was like, what? It's like, but then I had to actually think about it and realize, I think maybe I did believe that it's like, I'm going to run out someday. I gotta really conserve these expressions of gratitude or else I'm not going to have enough to last my whole life here. And what's so interesting is this, if you start to pay attention to the themes that have been coming up in what Masami has been teaching in particular over the last couple of years, there's this theme of flow. And flow is something that is absolutely connecting the dots here between our physiological bodily health, our spiritual expression, how we show up in the world, our mental health and our very sense of well-being. All of these things are connected. And so it's, as we have talked about this topic of how does the financial piece come in, I can say from personal experience that this is something I was very stuck on for most of my life until just the last few years. And it was tied to these other factors. We are going to just mention a couple of things today. I mean, hoping I'm not jumping the gun here, but just about how much stress around finances is reflected in our society today. This is something that it's considered to be the largest stressor out there to relationships, to individuals, just finances and talking about it. And yet we have this, you would think that we would all be a little bit more outwardly saying, well, what can we do to be better about this? How can we just be better stewards? How can we understand the dynamics of finance better? But instead, the tendency, and this is where I was for so many years, the tendency was to hide away from it, to not want to look at money questions any more than I absolutely had to, like when tax time came around. That was about it. I didn't want to have a conversation about it. I didn't want to think about it. If there was enough, that was enough. And there was no other exploration about what wants to happen here. You've all heard me say this question a bunch of times probably by now, but what wants to happen and how does the financial element play into that? Am I just ignoring it because it makes me uncomfortable because I don't have all the answers? So again, this is another one of those unanswerable questions that we can ask in good company and explore together. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, if you knew that the money was the extension of your energetic fields, you wouldn't treat money the way we have been treating it. Takako-san's comment made me remember some of these things I used to think too, is that when I first came here, and these days, people don't use cash that much, so you don't see this as often, but I used to find like pennies or dimes, and, I still pick them up and I love them, and I bring them home and wash them and make sure that they're clean. And I have a jar that, I put them back in. But it's just like, I see money that people are stepping over, the pennies and things like that. And then people say, oh, that's just a penny. I'm like, what? That I've never seen that growing up in Japan. That was such a taboo, because it's like, it meant that you stepped on a god. I mean, you literally stepped on a divine when you did that. So, just, it's like, how do I treat my money? And so when I receive money, and this is a little secret that I'll tell you, or my little thing that I do, and Chris sees me doing this, is that when you sign up for my courses that I teach, every time I see, like, I get an email notices that says, Pauline has signed up for Moon Course. Okay. Susan has signed up for, Chris sees me doing this, right, Chris? I put my hands together and I actually bow towards that email that notices that I receive from you. So I want you to know that it doesn't just, you don't just sign up and you think that, oh, it's just, you just become another number. That's not true. I actually bow at each of your notices of your payment, because you've opened up your energetic fields to receive what I have to say. To that, I'm so honored, and I want to bow to that. So I actually do this. So that's a great way to grow your business also, is that when you have a client that contacts you, or you have a maybe a project that you want to put it out in the world, and even one person purchased it, you don't say, oh my God, it's just the one person. You may say that, but change the frequencies and say, one person showed up, I'm going to bow to that person. Yeah. So that's the, exchanges that we can begin to do for one another. And even, at the grocery stores, I hope that you do a little bit of that, but maybe before you go into the grocery store, in the car, you just kind of quietly close your eyes and bow and say, thank you. I'm about to receive all this support, all this nourishment that all these people were involved to put into the shelves so that I can purchase this. People have to plant it, harvest it. They have to collect it, feed the water, whatever, package it, whatever they needed to do so that you can receive. And when you begin to do that, your life starts to flow. And it doesn't become like a drowning kind of feeling, or dammed up feelings, or too much. You become less overwhelmed because you take a moment to finish the cycle. It's the stress cycles, right? That we don't let ourselves finish. That we go into fight or flight, and then we don't let the cycle finish. So some of us are just stuck in freeze. I see this over and over. I mean, we live and breathe and stand on the grounds of traumas, right? Collective traumas. But it's like snowflakes coming down, and the river is frozen, or the lake is frozen, and then the snow is just piling up on top of it, because we haven't attended to the lake and the river flow, so that the snowflakes can't reintegrate or come together, and that is the work that you have to do in your own world, in your own living being, is that we all have trauma from money. I have yet to meet a person that has not had a trauma that was caused by the money and lack of, or sometimes too much of, I don't know, but mostly lack of. And if you even look at somebody like Jeff Bezos, right? He's rich, but if you look at his history, I encourage you to read his history. His childhood was traumatizing. He came from nothing. So because he didn't work on his trauma around money. He takes on the same trauma into his work now and his business. So his business expression has become a form of hoarding, right? Form of having more because he never feels like he has enough. Because part of it is he did not work on his childhood. So it's like the snowflakes are piling up on top of the iced up rivers and iced up lakes and ponds. He can't let the deep trauma melt. And his traumas really do come from his parents as well. So, before we are quick to judge people who are financially wealthy, really, it is important that we read about their stories as well, because their biology, but their story, right? That's what makes up their biology, like Carolyn Mays talks about, right? So that's also good practice as well before you begin to judge others. And I have to do a lot of that because I thought people that had money was a horrible people. And I'm finding out that is not true. That is not true, because they're donating much more money than I can donate in a year also. Chris, you have anything to add?
I just think that that's all so important for us to take into, asking these questions about how we are standing in relation to money, because a lot of times I don't know, this is maybe veering into psychology a little bit, but it's easy for us to equate how much we have in the bank with how much we're worth. I mean, to use the idea of net worth and self-worth as being the same thing, and they're not, but they're connected. There is a sense of how we feel about ourselves, and the material aspect is how we're often judged by society. And so for us to be able to welcome all of that in and recognize the pieces that are behind, like Masami mentioned, sometimes it's a childhood pattern like I experienced too. I grew up without money around. There's something that always required hard work to get. And there's a certain kind of attitude that comes with that too, which is good in certain circumstances and not so helpful in others when you're trying to break out of old patterns, for example. So yeah, just welcoming it all in and saying, okay, how can I take this, the history that has shaped me to what I am today, and then be willing to say, okay, I'm now going to take that shape and I'm going to set it aside and I'm going to take a step forward as who I am now and who I want to be after right now.
Yeah, thanks for shape is what I'm interested in, because when I see financial difficulties, I see that showing up in the shape of you. If you're closed in, if you're rigid and you could barely breathe and your lymphatic system is clogged up, that is what is showing up outside of you. So it shapes you. Really, these financial struggles and fears and how you judge people with money or how you judge people without money, whatever the spectrums, like just the whole range of emotions we have around this thing called money shapes who we are. So really pay attention to that. And I will be teaching a weekend retreat on financial healing, not this weekend, but the weekend after. So if any of you are interested in, please go to my website. It's all under courses, masamicovey.com under courses. And it's 3 days that I will be taking you through on the financial healing, more of an embodied practice. So more breathing oriented, body oriented, what organs have a lot to do with the money flow, and even the supplements too. The supplements going to be really interesting because I'm creating a supplement list for helping the flow of money. So we'll see how it goes. But I wanted to come back to this idea about the thank you. My mother, who's Japanese, used to get so mad she just be mad. And then one day I was like, why are you so mad at? She said she was mad at my father, her husband. Basically, he would say, thank God a lot. He would pray. He was a minister. And he would pray, thank God for that, and he would write these glorious letters to people and saying, thank God that we have this. And then she said to me one day, she goes, enough with thanking God. How about thanking me? Is what she said to me, meaning to her. And I thought, she has a good point there, because we are constantly thanking something outside of us, like meaning the divine, God's universe. It's so easy to thank that. But my homework to all of you this week is, can you think of a person, one or two people in your life that you're like, I am so grateful to that person. And I am going to write a thank you letter to that person. Maybe that person has moved on to the next spirit world. It doesn't matter. You can still write that person a thank you card and make it tangible, because money is specifically energetically tangible for this earth, this lifetime. Okay. As you evolve and as you ascend, who knows, maybe you don't come back to this lifetime again. Maybe you don't, reincarnate. Maybe this is it. I don't know. Maybe there's a different realms out there that we don't have to have the tangible money exchange. But you are here today in the human body, in this physical body, which means it requires you to work with money. Okay, actual thing called money that exchanges goods and services and energies on this earth right now. Then you need to make your thank yous tangible also. So you're not thanking the universe and the star systems and galaxies, but thank the people that live on this earth or have lived and spent the time on this earth. So that is going to change the relationship with the money. I swear to you, when you can start to say thank you to the person that has helped you on this earth, on this lifetime, the flow changes. Okay. So, I still, my dad and I are in communications all the time. He's in the spirit world too, but he kind of still laughs about that. He laughs like grudgingly a little bit. He says, well, yeah, I guess you were right. I should have said thank you more to my wife, that's what he says now. So he's learning, but, might as well learn that now while you're here, because, it's happening right now. The exchange is tangible. So I love that, Mary Bosses said she writes a little heart after she writes a check. I love that. Just giving little extra, saying thank you. And when you're saying thank you at the restaurant and things like that, look into that person's eyes and thank them. Give your money to them with both hands, like you're presenting a beautiful tray of treasure, because wouldn't you want to be served like that too? Wouldn't you want to receive their gratitude in that way? Right. And that's the generosity that Chris and I talked a lot about during the moon phase as well. But the true meaning of generosity is to give something you also need and require. Right. So that's something I learned from my Japanese mother, is that she was getting really upset that my dad was just praying to something outside of the home. And if you tend to do that, come back and say, who can I thank today? That is an actual breathing being today. Right. I think that will begin to change and shift your physiology as well, because gratitude is the highest frequency, really. Joy is too, but gratitude is. And gratitude will literally alter your physiology for the better. Yeah.
That's something that is very, very well established through scientific study. If you want to just do a quick search on gratitude and the impacts that it has on your physical, mental, spiritual, relational, financial health, just do a quick search. There are tons of studies that have been done over the years that basically tell us what we already know if we're paying attention. And what Masami said to me too, there's another element of this, which to me, it's, we hear a lot of times this term financial freedom. And usually what that means is that we have the means in terms of our money resources to be able to do whatever we want without depending on somebody else. I think that there's also another element of this, and then that's going to be part of this program, is that the financial freedom that we're talking about is actually the freedom to move and change and to flow in your life as you need to, as your life is calling for. Because if we're caught on, like what Masami's saying, if you're paying somebody and you're handing over the money, you're doing it with this grudging kind of, it's like you're still kind of gripping the bill in your hand as they're grabbing the other side, and there's this little tug of war happening. You're like, oh, I don't want to let it go. I don't want to let it go. It's that freedom too. The freedom of giving is, we talked about this earlier, giving and receiving, but that to me is a big element of this too, is the freedom that we have of letting go as well as getting. There's so much emphasis on the getting part that we forget about the letting go part. So
yeah, and
a lot more to say there.
There's so much more to say, and I know I will talk more about it during the retreat too. But one of the things that I want you to really understand is the universal law is based on release. Okay, universal law is based on giving, release and give, and freeing. That is the most important thing. Number one, once you know how to release and let go, so that's letting go of grudges, resentments, and to be able to forgive and release some of your childhood traumas, and know that was a gift that was given to you so that you can be on this earth as the light being. You can begin to let go of some of the strongholds. Then you can begin to inhale. Then you can begin to receive. And this is what a lot of the Japanese words are. Like the Japanese word for breath is kokyu. And the first character ko means to release and let go and to speak up. And it's to like blow out. Okay. And Q means to receive, to absorb, to take in. Okay. But those characters were not flipped, everyone. The characters were precisely put in this order: to let go, release, make space, open up, and give. Then the next stage is that you can begin to truly receive what this world is giving you. So start with release, okay? And that goes for having a really good stools in the morning and not be constipated, okay? And having diarrhea is also a form of constipation, just so you know, because you're not getting nourishment, right? So really think about, what can I let go? And that's a very important thing to think about at any age in your life. What can I let go of? Can I let go of anger? Can I let go of resentment? Can I let go of some of my hoarding tendencies? Then the world begins to flow. The wheel begins to turn. So why don't we maybe I will have Chris guide us through in a little bit of extended exhale breathing, and let's wrap up today.
Okay, well, I'll do something very simple. And it's actually something that is described as functional breathing. Okay, functional breathing. And that means that it's breathing in a way that provides the physiological basis, the physiological nourishment that your body needs. Okay, and it's very simple. It is two parts. So we're going to start with an exhale, like Masami was saying. So we're going to exhale to a count of 6, and then inhale slowly to a count of 4. So exhale for 6. Inhale for 4. Let's do it a couple more times. Exhale. Inhale. And to really get the most effect out of this, breathe through your nose. Slow it down. Light, soft, quiet. So at your own rhythm, exhaling for 6. Inhaling for 4. Exhaling for 6. Inhaling for 4. And as you're doing that, notice how your body starts to respond as you breathe this way. See if you can possibly hold on to stress or tension or grudges, resentments. Because while you're breathing in this way, it's very difficult for your body not to thrive. So it's a kind of love that you're giving yourself because you're giving your body what it needs to do its basic work, which is to keep you here so you can thrive. So please take this practice and use it. Use it whenever you remember to use it throughout your day. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, really turned into the parasympathetic nervous system. So this is the rest and digest and heal side, when you can focus a little bit more on your exhales. And that's, can you imagine the world that doesn't shed? Think about trees that do not shed and they don't release. There's no growth in that. We'll just be surrounded by jungles. Everything will take over us. But because there's a cycle of shedding and releasing, that they can birth again. So if we can bring the same kind of feelings towards money, what are you letting go for services you've received? And what are you receiving in exchange? And see if you could practice the two hands ones and write a thank you card to a person, not just to the universe and God. And I want to read Deborah's comment and we'll wrap up. Is that she says, that's such a beautiful idea. I'll write a letter to my long deceased aunt, Jean. Going up, hold on a second. If it weren't for her, my parents, along with younger me and my siblings, wouldn't have had a roof over our heads. She gifted us home and she moved elsewhere. My 93-year-old mother still lives in the house today. So yeah, please write. They can be in the spirit world. They will appreciate your love letters, and then they appreciate your thank you letters so much. So we will see you soon, right? Chris, you get the last word today. So
I get the
Yes.
last word. Well, I think all that there is to say is another thank you. So thank you all for showing up, because that's what makes this all possible. So, we would just be talking to each other if you weren't all here. We wouldn't be able to have these conversations and share this and learn from all of you as we're doing it. So thank you all. And we hope to see you if this is something that speaks to you, the financial retreat, the financial healing retreat, please check it out and join us. And if not, we'll see you soon in another place. So,
all right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Namaste.